In Mecca, during the Hajj, people were collapsing from the heat right on the streets. June snowdrifts formed in Slovenia and Russia. In Chile, more rain fell in a few hours than during the entire past year. In the USA, people had only a few minutes for emergency evacuation. The enormous scale of the disaster in China affected more than 1 million people. For more details on these and other events that occurred from June 12th to 18, watch this episode. Heat. In mid-June, anomalously high temperatures were established over a vast territory. From North Africa to Japan, tens of thousands of heat records were broken. Greece. Greece experienced the earliest heat wave ever recorded in the region. On the island of Crete, temperatures soared to a record-breaking +44, 5 degrees Celsius. Ancient tourist sites in Athens were closed to visitors. Due to the unbearable heat, people were fainting under the scorching sun when they stepped outside. Over the past week, 1 person died, and several others were reported missing. Saudi Arabia. In Mecca, Saudi Arabia, the temperature rarely dropped below +40 degrees C for several days, even at night. On June 17th, the air heated up to nearly +52 degrees C. This wave of abnormal heat coincided with the Hajj, which this year took place from June 14th to 19. During this period, more than 1,000 people died. Most of the deaths were attributed to the extremely high temperatures. People were collapsing from the unbearable heat right on the streets. According to eyewitnesses, motionless bodies were lying by the roadside. Ambulances were overwhelmed by the number of calls. The situation looked apocalyptic. Around 2,700 pilgrims suffered heat stroke and were taken to local hospitals. Russia. On June 15th, a powerful storm hit the coastal areas of Krasnodar Krai in Russia. In the city of Anapa, streets and sidewalks were quickly flooded. The stormwater drainage system began to work in reverse. A large tornado occurred near the village of Malé Utrish. In Novorossiysk, rain fell continuously, mixed with large hailstones measuring 5 to 6 centimeters, turning the streets into rivers. Public transport came to a halt. Waterspouts formed in the bay. In the village of Raevskaya, lightning struck a power substation, leaving the entire rural district without electricity. In Yakutia, a true natural anomaly occurred. On June 12th, the temperature in the village of Saskilak exceeded 26 degrees Celsius, which is 11 degrees Celsius above the average. By June 15th, the temperature dropped below zero, and the snowfall formed snowdrifts 10 centimeters high. This natural phenomenon left local residents bewildered. Slovenia. On June 13th, a similar unusual phenomenon occurred in Slovenia. In the area of the country's highest meteorological station, Kredarica, snow unexpectedly fell. Slovenian meteorologists shared footage of the summer-June snow on social media. China. On June 13th, northeastern China was hit by extreme weather conditions. In the city of Harbin, a tornado tore down power lines, causing sparks and fires. In Hebei province, rare thunderstorms and strong winds were observed. In Daming County, wind speeds reached the force of a Category 1 hurricane. Gusts of wind toppled many trees, caused damage to buildings, and disrupted water and power supplies. Floods struck several provinces in China, affecting more than 1 million people. Torrential rains in Fujian and Guangdong provinces caused deadly floods and landslides. As of June 19th, at least 13 people were reported dead and 23 missing. in Shanghai County, Fujian Province, more than 230 mm of rain fell on June 16th, exceeding the historical maximum for daily rainfall. The flooding destroyed bridges and dams in the province. In 1 week, the total rainfall in the province reached 940 mm. Longyan County was the hardest hit. In just 12 hours, an astounding 411 mm of rain fell. In Guangdong Province, water levels in at least 17 rivers exceeded critical marks. Rapid water flows destroyed bridges and hundreds of buildings. In Meizhou County, more than 9,000 people were involved in rescue operations. USA. On June 12th, a tropical depression brought abnormally heavy rains to South Florida in the USA. In some areas, more than 630 mm of rain fell. Roads were flooded and traffic was closed on the main Interstate 95. Rail service was also disrupted and hundreds of flights were canceled at 3 international airports. The U.S. National Weather Service declared a rare emergency due to life-threatening flooding. The last time this happened was in April 2023. That flood was called the event of the century for the state, and its recurrence just a year later left local residents in despair. On June 15th, a wildfire broke out near Los Angeles. Due to windy conditions and low humidity, the fire spread very quickly, covering more than 6,000 hectares. As of June 17th, only 2% of the fire's area had been contained. The fire approached residential and tourist areas, resulting in 1,200 people being evacuated from Hungry Valley Park. 2 large fires broke out on June 17th in the southeast of New Mexico. The fire behavior was extreme, with flames reaching heights of 30 meters. And the strong winds made it impossible to stop its spread. Within an hour, the police department and fire brigade barricaded all roads into the affected communities, except for one designated for emergency evacuation. People were instructed, "Leave now. Do not attempt to gather belongings or defend your home. Evacuate immediately." As of June 19th, at least 2 people had died from the fire. More than 8,000 local residents urgently left their homes. Over 1,400 structures were damaged or destroyed. 100% of the fire was still out of control of the firefighters. Ivory Coast. From June 13th to 14, torrential rain hit the city of Abidjan and its suburbs in Ivory Coast. In some places, the rainfall in just 24 hours was 4 times the norm. Several neighborhoods in the city were flooded, forcing residents to seek refuge on rooftops and wait for rescue for several hours. Firefighters and rescuers, using boats and special equipment, navigated the raging water flows to evacuate people in danger in the flooded areas. In Bingerville, landslides destroyed homes, and rescuers risked their lives to extract victims from the rubble. Due to the floods and landslides, at least 8 people died, and 18 were injured and taken to the hospital. Ecuador. On June 16th, the residents of Ecuador found themselves in the epicenter of powerful storms. The disaster claimed the lives of at least 10 people, and 11 more were reported missing. Dozens of people were injured. More than half of the country's provinces were affected by the torrential rains. Rivers overflowed, destroying bridges and highway pavement, resulting in the closure of about 20 roads across the country. Around 20 landslides occurred on the main highway connecting Ecuador's highland areas with the provinces in the Amazon region. In the city of Banos, Tungurahua Province, People, homes, and cars were buried under a massive landslide. The flooding halted the operation of the country's main hydroelectric plant, Coca-Codo Sinclair. The Agoyan power plant was also flooded and rendered inoperative. It's important to note that the disaster occurred just a few months after a severe drought in Ecuador. This exacerbated the scale of the already devastating flood's consequences. Chile. For several days, abnormal rains, strong winds, and thunderstorms ravaged much of Chile. 7 of the country's 16 regions were declared disaster zones. 1 person died, 3 were injured, and more than 11,000 were affected by the disaster. The most critical situation developed in the Biobío region, home to more than 1.5 million people. In the city of Curanilahue, about 350 mm of rain fell in just a few hours, exceeding the total annual rainfall for the region. As a result, 2 rivers overflowed, submerging most of the city. Around 7,000 people were forced to leave their homes and move to safer areas. On June 18th, a rare phenomenon for the country occurred. A tornado hit the Biobío region, destroying at least 11 homes, toppling trees and poles. Wind speeds reached 137 kilometers per h. On June 12th, the Chilean Meteorological Service issued the highest level of warning due to heavy rains and winds. It affected 14 out of the country's 20 million inhabitants. In the capital city of Santiago, this level of alert was declared for the first time in 20 years. The next day, rains flooded the capital, causing flooding, power outages, and transportation issues. According to official data, this June became the wettest June in Santiago in the past 42 years. This, despite the fact that central Chile has been suffering from severe drought for 15 years. As a result of the natural disaster, more than 100,000 households were left without electricity, and nearly 9,000 homes were damaged. A few days earlier in the city of Vina del Mar, residents of a 12-story building were urgently evacuated due to a giant sinkhole 15 meters long and 30 meters deep that formed under the building because of the rains. Climate chaos on the planet is increasing, destroying our way of life. More and more areas are becoming uninhabitable. Traditional holiday spots are turning into risk zones, and a long-awaited vacation can turn into a nightmare. But many people refuse to notice this and continue to live as before, endangering not only themselves, but all of humanity. It is crucial for everyone to know what is happening to our planet. Indifference, silence, and inaction will lead to catastrophic consequences. The problem of increasing disasters must become the most pressing issue in the world. We need to raise this issue on all possible platforms so that politicians and scientists start acting and find a solution. Watch the forum Global Crisis, the responsibility to learn more. The future of humanity is in your hands.